Okay, in this video we're going to show you how to update an F16 V2R or an F4V2 through the network interface using a Java application that has been packaged for Windows. We will be releasing a Mac version and a Linux version of the jar file pretty soon, but for now we'll show you the Windows installation version. So the first thing you do is open up your favorite browser and go to pixelcontroller.com, the store, and pick one of the links for the controller, and you'll get to the controller's web page. Now we've moved the links to the firmware and also the updating tools to right underneath under the more information. They used to be down closer to the bottom, now they're at the top. And what you're going to want to do is download the network firmware updater. That's downloading. And it's about a 45 megabyte file, and that's because we include all the Java runtime environment embedded into the files, just so you don't have to go through that step of installing it if you're on Windows. I believe that the Mac version and the Linux version, you'll have to have the Java runtime environment installed in order for you to activate the jar file. So when that's done, we're going to go ahead and show in folder. And there it is. Now we're going to right click and hit run as administrator, because after the installer installs, the first thing it wants to do is to run the program, and the program needs to be run as administrator. And we're going to click install. And I think I might already have a version of it running, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. And I'm going to click next to install. And installing it. And when it's installed, it will run the application. And when the application starts up, it'll automatically detect if you have a F16 V2R on your network. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your controller is on the network and has an IP address and is on your home network. That tutorial to show you that is how to do that will be another video. So hopefully you have gotten that far and it is on the network, and it will go ahead and find it. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is go back to the website, and we're going to want to download the actual firmware. Now there's two firmwares. There's one for the F16 V2R, which is the red controller, this one, and then there's firmware for the F16 V2, which was a blue controller that we sold last year. You'll want to make sure that you download the F16 V2R. The F16 V2 is not supported with the network bootloader, but it is supported with the USB. So if you have an F16 V2, please download the USB firmware updater and follow the video that's regarding that, which can be found also right here. So we're going to go ahead and download the firmware. And the firmware is downloading, and it was put into the downloads directory. So we go here to choose file, and we want to go to the downloads. I believe it's just under my name and then downloads. And we see it right here. So we select that file, open. And then the last thing to do is make sure that the controller is selected. If you have multiple controllers in here, make sure the one that you want to update is selected, and then hit update. It initializes the update. It goes ahead and erases the FPGA file. Now it is installing the FPGA file. And it gives you a pretty good idea of where it is, how far along it is in the upgrade. The FPGA file is much smaller than the firmware file, so this should go relatively quickly. And the firmware file will be a little lengthier just due to its size. After the FPGA file has been uploaded, it will proceed to upload the firmware file after it erases the firmware location in the flash. And there it is, it's erasing the firmware. And then it starts the actual upload, which in this case is 1,500 pages. And rather than talk throughout this whole thing, I will just kind of be silent. I do want to let it run its course just so you get an idea of how long it takes. And that's a live picture of the controller. And it's about halfway done right now. About 2/3 done. Now, along with the file, it is also sent a CRC checksum value that will be checked at the end to make sure that the whole file has been transferred correctly. And after that checksum has been validated, it will go ahead and write to the flash inside the controller a special code that tells the controller that there is a firmware update on the flash, and when the controller reboots automatically, it will go ahead and update itself, and you will see a series of blinking lights indicating that it is writing the flash data to the actual flash for the microcontroller. So you do not want to unplug the controller during this time. In fact, you want to let at least 20 seconds go by after it states that it has been successfully transferred for this to occur. So it's validated, it was successful. It's going to commit and reboot. You see the controller reboots, and upon restarting the bootloader, you see the blinking lights indicating that the bootloader is loading the actual data into the and then the flashing stops. The bootloader is actually done. You'll want to wait 10 or 15 seconds and then remove power and then reapply power. once those lights go solid, it's actually safe to unplug and reboot the controller. So we'll do that now. And we're going to come over here and take the power off and plug the power back in. And you see the controller boots up. And at that point, it has the new firmware, which is version 1.09. Before we did the update, it was 1.07. And that pretty much concludes how you go ahead and update over the network. Again, the F16 V2, the original version, the blue version, does not have enough flash to support this feature, but the new F4V2 will. So this network process will be good to go for the F16 V2R, which is the red board, and also the F4V2, which will also be red. It'll be a 4-port board that comes out next week. Thank you.